What do you do for a vacation when your job is so much fun, it kind of feels like you're on a vacation every day? Well, I'd fly to Arizona with my best friend, rent an off-road machine, drive that machine to Wake Bros in Page, Arizona to rent top-of-the-line e-foils, and then spend 4 days flying through a flooded version of Mars. Let's let the movie do the talking. The feeling of flying over the water. Just a few feet in the air with no noise, no resistance. This is how e-foiling has quickly taken over my free time and has become the activity I want to do every day. And this is probably one of the best places in the world to do it. We were at Lake Powell for 4 days and we had all kinds of crazy weather, culminating in the best day of riding on the very last day. But let's start with day one. It was windy. First day in Lake Powell, gusts of 45-mile-an-hour winds. We're getting it. This is my first time riding a flight board. You can see me being really shaky here, trying to figure it out with the waves and the high winds. But the main difference between this and the lift board that I normally ride is the mast is a stiffer aluminum instead of a more flexible carbon fiber. And the front wing that's responsible for generating most of the lift is in plane with the motor instead of underneath it. So it was a little bit of getting used to, but overall it feels really similar and really good. Remington and I fell in love with these boards right away. But what was most impressive is the location. Feature called Lone Rock. When the reservoir is full, you can ride all the way around it. It's plenty deep and it's just a beautiful, surreal place to ride. After getting more comfortable on the new setup, we even tried to touch the wall. And I didn't really touch it with my hand, but I did mess up the camera for the rest of the trip. Closer than I thought. After a while, we realized that our batteries were depleting way faster than advertised, and this was definitely because of the strong winds. So we cruised to the mostly sheltered side of Lone Rock because we wanted to conserve our battery as much as possible, get as much time to play, but ultimately we had to head back to the truck to get these batteries on the charger. And this was a foil trip, so our only time out of the water is when we're going to be charging these batteries. Even with the extreme winds, we managed to ride a whole hour. We got 10 miles and had an average speed of over 10 miles an hour. I think this is pretty dang good considering we're on new boards. Remington didn't have a lot of experience coming into it, and if you're not flying and your board's kind of tapping the water, you're using a lot more power, but he really figured it out super quick and we didn't have any problems. But the wind was definitely affecting our range, and it was about to get so much worse.
We had to go straight into the wind to get out of there. We almost pushed our luck too far on the battery. Just from the rock to shore, used over 10%. The wind is so strong. This is the best place to ride, and it's awesome seeing the Bronco trundle through the sand with maximum PSI tires. And the sand is pretty loose. I'm impressed.
And just like that, we waved goodbye to Lone Rock to try out the next location right next to where we were staying, because we figure if we charge the battery close to shore, we might be able to get a second and third session in today.
We put in at the marina closest to the hotel, and it is insanely windy, like twice as windy as it was on the last ride. We're gonna see what kind of range we can get. The gusts of wind are so strong, you can see the ripples on the back of the waves. And this is not good for range. We've used 25% just getting it from the marina, which normally maybe this would have taken like 10 to get this far or something. It's pretty gnarly. Only Rem's second day out, but he's charging the waves. Ah!
We managed to find some cover behind these giant, incredible sandstone cliffs, and just how surreal it is to ride in this location. It doesn't show on camera, it doesn't show in riding. It's just something you have to experience. It is so wild. It really feels like you're just flying through a Martian landscape on crazy hoverboard technology. It's the closest thing to Disney's version of Treasure Planet as you're gonna get. We kept talking about that with the hoverboard scene and all that. It was just so surreal. This time we got a much longer ride. It really goes to show you how much that wind was affecting us. The second we got in these tighter areas, we ended up with an hour 20, which isn't that much shorter than how long it takes to charge these batteries. But that gave us enough time for one more mission in an even tighter canyon, as we thought that that would be even calmer water. But boy, oh boy, were we wrong.
This is pretty gnarly. I'm just glad I have a friend as crazy as me. Woo! And a storm is rolling in. This is insane.
The second we got to the tighter part of the canyon, we realized it was even worse. The storm was bouncing the waves off of all the tight walls. We put the cameras away and got out of there as soon as possible because it started to seem way sketchier than it was worth. But we made it back safely, woke up first thing, and got back to it. And man, should we have just waited for the morning, because it was perfect. Riding in these tight walls of the canyon is why we came on this trip. It's why we chose Lake Powell, and it was so worth it. The only way to really get in these canyons is if you rent a really expensive boat, or if you do a really expensive kayak tour that there's a waiting list for. So to just rent some boards and get out here super quick, spend the day in the canyon is just so phenomenal. And because of the big storm the day before, the kayak tours were canceled, so we had the entire place to ourselves, except for this one boat captain that called us the skate punks of Lake Powell. I think he meant it as an insult, but Rem and I were so stoked because being a skate punk is how we grew up and what I still identify as. We met up with a local rider, eFoil Lake Powell, and we traded boards for a while. I've never ridden a Get Foil board before, and it's perfectly fine. All the eFoils on the market out there work, but for me, the extra weight from being fiberglass instead of carbon fiber just makes it much more challenging to ride and a lot less fun. I was thankful for the opportunity to give it a go, but I definitely think that the flight boards and the lift boards are the way to go with all my experience so far. While we were charging our next round of batteries, we went out to do the touristy things of Page, Arizona, and the food scene is surprisingly good here. But as soon as our batteries were back to charged, we went out for an epic sunset session. It certainly wasn't my finest moment, but I inspected the board. Everything was perfectly fine. These carbon fiber wings are super strong. I've taken hits harder than this before, but this is the first one I caught on camera. And luckily there was enough water to break my fall before I hit the rocks. And we found Ice Cream Parlor. This is the next deepest canyon to Antelope Canyon within range of where we were staying. More canyons would be rideable if the lake was more full, but at this level, this was the only other canyon that we could hit. And we figured out really quickly why it was called Ice Cream Parlor. There are these awesome ice cream scoop shaped rocks everywhere. So we rode off into the sunset and woke up at sunrise to drive back to Antelope Canyon because it was going to be the most calm day at the most calm time of our entire trip. And boy, was it worth it. We rode through the glass water, through the steep walls of the canyon, and then hiked as far as you could hike into the canyon. And almost stepped on this little guy, which turns out is a rattlesnake, and baby rattlesnakes are the worst ones to step on. So close call, being a little more careful next time we're out. But it was an incredible hike, followed by another ride going all the way to the dam. And then just in time for the last day, the water got perfectly smooth. Reflection from the walls of Lake Powell all around us. And on days like that, I don't take the camera out. That one was just for me, and so is tonight. Super huge thanks to Wake Bros for renting us these awesome boards. They also do boat, jet skis, everything you can think of. So if you're in Lake Powell, check it out. And if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe.